Hi, I'm Rick Neitzel. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Environmental Health Sciences. I'm part of the Industrial Hygiene faculty and also part of the Faculty for Environmental Health Promotion and Policy. In addition, I'm a faculty of Global Public Health. So I'd like to spend a few minutes here and talk to you about the research that we do in my laboratory called the Exposure Research Laboratory. We focus on the evaluation of exposures to a whole range of hazards in both workplace and community settings, and have a particular focus on exposures to noise as well as on injury risks in those settings. I would say a cross-cutting theme in all of my research is a focus on developing and evaluating new methods, as well as a heavy emphasis on translating what we find in our research into practice that can actually change and hopefully improve people's lives. I have a few studies going right now that I'd like to mention to you. The first is the Apple hearing study. And you can see an image here of an iPhone and an Apple Watch. This is a multi-year national scale study where we're trying to better understand the exposures to sound and noise that Americans have at work and at play, and also to understand the association between those exposures and changes in their hearing, their experience with tinnitus or ringing and noise in the ears, as well as impacts on their heart rate and stress levels. So we're doing a big data study here, but at a very personal level, having our participants opt in to share information from their phones regarding the volumes at which they listen to music, podcasts, movies, other media that they consume through their headphones. And also for participants who have an Apple Watch, we're sensing the environment around them. So really, for the very first time, what this study will enable us to do is have a national level picture of what exposures people have, again, from occupational noise and from leisure time and home noise in America, and to look at the associations between those exposures and hearing health, as well as stress and cardiovascular health. Another aspect of my research right now, which is of course interest to all of us mid-pandemic, is I'm working with several other faculty members to do exposure assessment for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and also trying to link those exposures to the infection prevalence for COVID-19. So with these other faculty, we are doing some work on campus that involves collecting air samples, collecting surface wipe samples, and also collecting sewage samples. And so you can see a picture here of our air sampling apparatus set up on a University of Michigan bus, and several people conducting a sewage sample collection. What we're trying to do here is better understand where might people be coming into contact with the virus in different spaces on campus, offices, classrooms, common settings, in dormitories, as well as on the bus system, and try to understand how that exposure risk may translate into infection rates on campus. Several years ago, I was funded by the National Institute for Occupational Health to develop the nation's first national job exposure matrix, or GEM, for noise. You can see we've actually translated that into a web app that allows users to access estimates of exposure for virtually every industry and every job, both in the United States and in Canada. Now, this tool is something we've developed and is freely available to the public, but increasingly I'm focusing on leveraging this tool to better understand exposure risks and health outcomes in the American population. You're probably aware that noise exposure can lead to noise-induced hearing loss with sufficient exposure and time. You may not be aware that noise exposure is also increasingly being linked to hypertension, to heart attacks, and to strokes. So using this job exposure matrix, we can better understand what types of exposures people have to noise, for example, in the workplace. We can possibly combine that with information about non-occupational noise levels from the Apple hearing study and use those estimates to try to better understand and explain people's risk of developing, again, hypertension, heart attacks, strokes, and other health outcomes that are associated with noise. And finally, we have an ongoing study on which I'm a collaborator with the College of Engineering, looking at developing a novel system for doing gas chromatography in the field for volatile organic compounds. Our part of this study is trying to essentially compare new micro-GC technology against traditional industrial hygiene methods to confirm for ourselves that yes, this new technology is performing in the way we expect it to, and it's performing with sufficient accuracy. This ideally will then turn into a product that it's available for practitioners to use to better understand environments, be they in the workplace or community settings, and the chemical exposures that occur therein. So hopefully you can get a sense that our research in the Exposure Research Laboratory is pretty broad. It covers on a variety of topics, again with an emphasis on noise exposure and injury prevention. If you're interested in learning more, I'd encourage you to visit my laboratory website. You can see umexposureresearch.org, or feel free to drop me an email. I'm always interested in talking with students and seeing if there's a good fit for them to do a research rotation, a thesis, or potentially a doctorate program with me. So thank you very much and have a great day.